Yeah, it works fine.
Hopefully.
I just tried to log on myself. So 2 people have come in already. Just for your information, we're just waiting a few more minutes before we get started. It's only just 11 a.m. So we'll just give it a few more minutes and then we'll get going. Okay, so welcome to this great webinar with Melanie Goodman. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. Ever since I actually met Melanie the first time, I struggled with something on LinkedIn, and trust me, there's been many reasons for me to be in contact with Melanie since then. I'm Mogens Rye from Rye Outsourcing, and I started the company 2 years ago, basically trying to help startups and small companies that have limited resources to get the most stretch in their budgets as they possibly can by getting you solutions that works, maybe even could be the best possible, but again, with a focus on the fact that there is some cost involved in everything we do. I've since also launched now a company called Asset Insight Media, where we help financial asset managers to get content onto LinkedIn and other social media platforms by producing specific video and podcast related content in a quality manner. And the reason I am so thrilled to have Melanie with me is that she actually is one of the most frequent posters on LinkedIn in terms of helping the rest of us to get more reach and speed out of our LinkedIn. And with that, Melanie, I'd just like to hand the word over to you for a little while, and then also just notice that it's open to ask questions. If you raise your hand on the speak button, we will open up for you to be able to come with your questions. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for the introduction. So thanks for joining today and coming to listen to me talk. I don't want to talk at you, so I'm happy for people to interrupt with their own questions. Stop me as we go along. This isn't going to be a webinar full of slides. I prefer to keep it really hands-on, practical, show you how things work and show you how you can implement them yourself. So just by way of short introduction, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Melanie Goodman. I am originally a lawyer by original profession, but I have been doing LinkedIn marketing and business development training for about the last 12 years. This is my company, Trevisan, and we specialize in LinkedIn marketing and training, business development without using any paid ads on LinkedIn. So we don't use them ourselves. We don't use them for clients. It's all organic growth and relationship building. So you've joined today because you obviously want to know how to use LinkedIn and get the most out of it in the least possible time. Because I, like you, and like most people on LinkedIn, we have client work to deal with as well. And although I spend, obviously, because of my profession, I spend a lot of my day on LinkedIn, I do realize that most people can't do that. So we have to use it in the best possible way. So why is it even important? Well, as you probably are aware, there's now over 1 billion members of LinkedIn in over 200 countries. It is the premier site for gaining B2B leads. So actually 80% of B2B leads come from LinkedIn, and it has a 277%, it's 277% more effective than Facebook and Twitter for gaining real material leads, according to LinkedIn. Of course, I do caveat that. So I'm going to show you now, by sharing my screen, how you can use LinkedIn in the best possible way. So what I'm going to do is go here, turn on the screen share. And hopefully when I share my entire screen, hopefully, Morgans, if you can just tell me.
That's the one. Yeah, click, yeah, exactly.
Can you see everything?
Oh, yeah, no, yes, now we're back, yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so this is where you will be in the morning when you come on LinkedIn. You will have your home screen looking like this. So it bombards most people, and most people sort of give up after a few minutes. They might comment on a few posts and they're like, haven't got time for this. So this is what I suggest you do. You will see here a little tab called Recent, and this for you will probably say top, because you have a choice of either top or recent. So what you want to do is when you go on LinkedIn, you don't really want to just be given the posts that LinkedIn think are the best posts for you. You want the most recent ones, because you want to go boom, 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 and engage on the most recent posts, because engagement is where you will be seen and you will start to build your brand, and people get to know you, and then they will reach out to you, which is for most people the reason that they're on LinkedIn. So how do you do that? You can actually change that setting. So you can change it like this and manually go on each time, but that's a bit of a pain. So what I would suggest is that you go into your settings, and this might look, some people's settings and privacy look sort of slightly different because they tend to change it. But if you go down your account preferences, and it says here, preferred feed view, and you can change that. So you can see here that I've changed it to most recent posts, rather than, even though that's what LinkedIn recommends, I don't really want to see what LinkedIn recommend for me, because usually they're not that accurate. So I'm just going to go back. So you'll see, so you'll be presented with your most recent post, but let's just say it's first thing in the morning, you've only got 15 minutes, you're going into a meeting, so you want to be able to get as much done as possible. Now, this is a really interesting post. I want to actually comment on it properly, because if you just write great posts, it doesn't do much for yourself, and it also doesn't do much for the post that you're commenting on. So the LinkedIn algorithm actually looks at comments that are more than 5 words. So you always want to make your comments meaningful. Think about responding to the author, tagging them with their name. So you use the little @ sign. So if I was to comment on this, the best way is to write a comment. So let's just write test comment, if I can spell it right. And then I would put an @ sign and then tag the author. And a little trick, because it doesn't look very conversational to put someone's surname in, is I then just highlight and delete the surname. So then it looks more natural and conversational. But anyway, I haven't got time. It's first thing in the morning. I haven't got time to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go to the top of the post and I'm going to press save. Now, what I would suggest that you do is you go down your feed, all the posts that you want to comment on in depth, you then save, and then later you can go down to this little section here, which most people have never noticed, called saved items. And then you go to save posts and articles, and there you go, there is your post. And these will be all the posts that you have saved. And then when you've dealt with them for the day, you can then just unsave them. And so what it means is that you can time block more effectively. So you save them, and then when you've got at lunchtime later in the day, you've got all the posts that will be great for your for your credibility, and for really developing your relationships on LinkedIn, you can do them all in one batch. And that's something that I talk about quite a lot, is about doing things in batches. So that's scheduling content, putting content together. It's much easier to prevent social media overwhelm if you time block. And you'll see on LinkedIn, if you haven't already, that I do talk quite often about time blocking, because otherwise you get distracted, you answer a client's email, and that's really the best way possible. So sort by recent, save your posts. But the real key to time saving is also to have people contacting you, because outreach obviously takes time. So really you want people to be reaching out to you. So the way to do that, and this is a whole webinar in itself, so I'm just going to give you some top tips for optimizing your profile so that you get more inbound leads. And so what I would suggest that you do to start with is you go to your profile and view the profile. And here, where it says public profile and URL, you want to press on the little pencil icon, and it gives you the option here. It's taking a little while to load. Here we go. It gives you the option here to edit using the pencil. And here is where I would suggest that you add some keywords for what people would be putting in a search to find you. So, for example, if people, for me, now you might wonder why I haven't got LinkedIn here, and that's because LinkedIn don't allow you to put LinkedIn in your URL. So I have all the other keywords that people would be looking for: training, marketing, employee advocacy. And you can do the same. So you could put in here your name, lawyer, legal advice, if you were in investment management, you would have investment management, split it up with hyphens. You're not allowed any spaces. And you'll see, and you have it's not actually limited here as to how many characters you have, but I would suggest you don't make it too long, because when you share it, you want it to look smart, and it does. For branding, it looks really smart to have, because otherwise LinkedIn give you some ugly, if you haven't already done this, you'll have some sort of ugly numbers and letters jumbled up here that LinkedIn give you. And then just check that your profile is set to public. This is really important. And I often find when I'm optimizing people's profiles that they don't realize that their profile isn't set to public, which means that they're not coming up in any searches off LinkedIn. So if people type into Google, they are not coming up because they've got it just set to like first degree connections or just your network. You always want to have it set to public.
Can I ask you, Melanie, just one question, and that is, would this also work in company pages? Can you do the same if you have a company page?
You can customize, yes, exactly. And this sort of looking for keywords it's the same. You want to put keywords in your about section, in your experience section, in your headline, because that's how you come up in searches. So obviously I'm not going to go into each one of those today, but you can see all these areas are where you would want to have your keywords. So top level, change that and add one of these. It's a featured section. So the advantage of a featured section is people can come to your profile and immediately see what you do. You do LinkedIn training. This is obviously for my one. Add a client testimonial. So yes, you've got your recommendations at the bottom of your profile, but have one higher up. And you can, so different ways that you can do this. I happen to have uploaded a video that a client's made, but you could do this by adding the text. You can just put the text into an image and upload it here. You just go onto the section here, and it gives you a whole variety of ways in which you can upload content. Or if you've got it written as a post, you can add the post to your featured section. And then give people some value and you can add links to your newsletter. I've added a content calendar, etc. So this is a really good way of getting inbound leads. And again, making it as easy as possible for people to reach you. So you want to make sure your contact information is up to date and add a button. So I've got a premium profile, which is why I've got the book an appointment button. You really want to add a link onto your profile to make it so that people contact you and it depends on whether you have a free account or a basic account, will depend on where you put that link. So those are sort of some key ways to get people to your profile. But then let's talk about actually reaching out to people and making and doing that within the least amount of time possible, but effectively. So what I would suggest is that you have a little strategy in your mind every morning. It takes half an hour. So obviously you can change this, you can spend longer, you can spend shorter, but this is what I would suggest. So the first thing you're going to do when you come on in the morning is you're going to check your notifications. So this is your notifications tab. So check your notifications and you want to deal with these. So for example, someone's mentioned you in a comment. You want to answer that, because if they have mentioned you, it's a great, it might be that they've tagged you in a post, but you want to answer those first, because those are going to help you grow your relationships. So you spend 10 minutes a day checking your notifications and engaging on LinkedIn, engage on other people's posts. Reciprocity, they will then look back at you, they'll look at your posts, and it's a two-way street. So what I would suggest is that you spend 10 minutes engaging, then you post your post. The reason we do it that way round is because you sort of warm up the LinkedIn algorithm to start with. LinkedIn likes you to be active on the platform and not just post and ghost. So what we do is we go in, we comment on some people's posts, something meaningful, then you post your post, and then you stay on the platform and continue to then engage on another 5 to 10 posts. So let's say 5, because let's say you're short of time. So LinkedIn can see that you haven't disappeared, and you want to, in an ideal world, I'm not saying that you stay on LinkedIn, but you are enabled to comment and answer comments on your post in that hour afterwards. It's like a golden hour. Some people say it's now 2 hours after you post. And that is what determines how far your post goes. So you want to try and stay around, even if you're not on LinkedIn specifically, for the next hour or so. So 10 minutes, engage, post, engage. So in that way. And if you spend half an hour doing that every single day, you will see a material increase in your profile views and your engagement. It really does work, and it's really consistency. It sounds really naff and it's overused, but it's really, if you can spend 30 minutes a day doing that, it's really what will propel you forward on LinkedIn. But I'm also going to talk about some other features on LinkedIn and tools off LinkedIn that can help you save time, because when it comes to the relationship building, you need to do some outreach. I mean, most people, unless you're an influencer, you will want to build your network with targeted people who can be of value to you. That might be as a potential client, or it could be as a referral. So it might be somebody who you've got lots of mutual connections, or their clients would be really useful to you too. So it's worth spending the time building a relationship with them. But obviously time is at premium for everyone, which is why we're on this webinar. So I'm going to just talk you through some of the LinkedIn features where you can automate in an acceptable way and save time. So the first one is really to use a scheduling tool. So you've got the organic inbuilt scheduling tool that LinkedIn have now given us. So I think they released it, it's probably about 2 years ago now. But you start a post, and at the same time, I am going to show you, that's why I've got it on. This is an app called Authored Up. And I just like to say that I am not affiliated with any of the tools that I show you. I'm literally sharing them because they are useful, they're time savers. I don't, there's no kickback here. So this is something called Authored Up. And what it does is it allows you to format a post. So if I write post for webinar, this allows me to format that and however I want to. So you can see I can make it into bold, I can add, etc., etc. It gives you some hooks that you can use. So this is how you could create a post quite quickly. You can choose a hook and then put it in there. So it gives me an example here, which I would just then, I mean, I wouldn't use this exactly. You do need to change it, obviously, so that makes sense. But what you would do is then you just paste it in, but obviously you change that. So for example, I could have done this for this webinar. And by the same rationale, it also gives you some endings. These are things which they know. They have studied lots of posts, and they know that actually they gain traction. So that's one way. Now, the reason that I'm suggesting this as a tool is that what you can actually do is you can also save your draft, because sometimes we start creating a post, we haven't got time to finish it. We're not always that great at time blocking. Something comes up, someone phones, a client phones, you have to take the call. So what you can do is you can actually, so I can close the draft, and then if I open my drafts later on, look, I can have all these drafts ready to go at a future time. So something like Authored Up is a really good way of saving time, because you've created your content. But I want to show you, this is LinkedIn's own platform. So if I was to, what I can do is I click on the little clock icon, and I have a choice here of, I can choose any date and time, and LinkedIn have just recently changed it. So it used to be really inflexible. So you used to have to choose only hour increments, or no, 30-minute increments. It's now 45-minute increments, and you can actually edit your post after scheduling it, which is something new, because to start with, it was like once you pressed schedule, that was it. You couldn't do anything with it. But now I can actually, what you do is you would press next, and it's scheduled. Except I'd have to press schedule, which I'm not going to do because it's just a test post. So Authored Up, this is called Authored Up. Anybody who wants a list of these tools afterwards can contact me. Or I actually did a post coincidentally this morning about some of the tools that I use, and I've mentioned some of them in there. So you've got your native scheduling tool. Now you can also use external tools, and this is just an example of one which we use with clients, hence I'm showing it to you. There are lots of them out there. And what it actually means is you could create the same content and publish it across both your company page, your personal page, if you've got one, a Facebook page, Twitter, wherever you want to. And it makes it very easy to create content in advance. And I would really suggest that for the purposes of saving time, you do use some sort of scheduling tool. When you're doing things on the hoof, it's very difficult to keep up and be consistent. So I know I have a content strategy, and it's the same as we do for clients. We know that, say, on a Monday, a document post is going out. On a Tuesday, we're going to do a poll. On Wednesday, I'm going to share some top tips. On Thursday, I happen to be going to an event, so I might leave that blank because I know that there's going to be some photos and I'm going to want to talk about the event. And on Friday, I might do my LinkedIn FAQs, which I do every week. Keeping up a consistent schedule makes it easier for yourself, because you don't have to sort of think every day. You wake up in the morning. It's too difficult to think on the hoof all the time. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be spontaneous at all, but definitely you want to have some sort of system in place. Now, I'm also going to show you something which is going to make it much easier. When you start a post, you want your posts to always look really professional and branded. But again, to do that all the time, it takes time. So there's something called Text Expander, which is another app which, sign in again, which is really, really useful. And what it does is you type in one word and it expands it. So you can see these abbreviations are all abbreviations that I have got, and they expand. So I'll show you this in action. So for example, every time I do a post and I type the word ending, it immediately adds this whole block of text to the end of my post. I've already got my hashtags in there. I've got my call to action in there. I've said that I really welcome new people to enter my world, into my LinkedIn world, and I've asked people if they want to learn more, they can subscribe to my newsletter. But then this is great for branding. People know that I have this on the end of my post. It looks aesthetically pleasing if you look down my posts, and you want to start to build out your brand in that way. And using something like Text Expander is really, really useful. I also have a message that I use if people want to book a call with me, that then shares my calendar link. So I have a short message sharing my calendar link, which obviously I then just edit so it makes sense in the conversation. But all I have to type is the word calendar and it comes up with a whole message. I have been using Text Expander now for quite a few years and I really recommend it. Again, I'm not affiliated. I just find it really useful. So I hope you do too. I'm going to show you now an inbuilt LinkedIn tool, which will save you time, and that is called Smart Replies. And so what that means is that in your messaging, so let's go to this one. So this is our webinar link this morning. And you'll see that it offers me some ready-made replies that it uses AI. So sometimes, admittedly, I would never say what it says to say, but sometimes just for ease and convenience, you can use the smart replies. So how do you set that up? You go into your settings and privacy. And you go down to your data privacy, scroll all the way down. I'm not really sure why they put it under data privacy, but they do. And under messaging experience, this is how you can make your time more efficient. So you can use messaging suggestions, messaging nudges, and focused inbox. I actually have my focused inbox off. What that means is that LinkedIn divides up your inbox, if you haven't got it on, into what it calls important messages and non-important messages. It's pretty accurate. I've seen it with clients. It's pretty accurate, but maybe I'm a bit of a control freak. I like to be able to be in control of what I think is important and not. But again, sometimes it can be useful if you just want to see key messages first. But this is the messaging suggestions that I was talking about, where it will give you some they call it smart replies, quick replies that you can give. Another way of managing expectations and managing your time on LinkedIn is to set an away message. So if you've got a premium account, so you do need a premium account for this, in your messaging, you can set what's called an away message. So I press on update. And the reason that this is useful is you can say to somebody, you can say, I've said, thank you for your message. It's much appreciated. And I'll respond as soon as I can. So I haven't left them hanging, because I always like to try and respond to everybody by the end of the working day, but sometimes it's just not possible. So you send them a message, and I would suggest that you do put in some sort of business lead generator in here. So I either give people away in the summer. I gave them my summer content plan for them. They could download from here. At the moment, I have on people can test how good they are at LinkedIn. If they send me a message, they get back. They get to test their LinkedIn proficiency, which is quite a fun test. If you want to go, it's on my website as well. If you click on the Trevor Zan Consulting website, the first thing that will come up is you can test how good you are on LinkedIn, which is quite fun. So you can set this, and you can set it for the next sort of 3 months. And
is there anywhere where you could have one that says, like, I tend to leave the screen at, say, 5 o'clock in the evening local time, where you say, actually, gone for the day, we'll be back tomorrow, kind of thing, or
do
it every day then?
Yeah, I mean, they're supposed to be used when people are on holiday, but I've seen people use them for a whole variety of different ways. So you could absolutely do that. Some people say, these are my working hours. I've seen ones that say, these are my working hours, basically to protect my mental health on social media. I don't answer messages after 7 o'clock at night or something like that. So you can certainly tailor it, to suit your schedule. Especially if you're in meetings, if you're away at a conference, something like that, where you're not going to be available to answer. And the other thing I wanted to show you is really the last key way of saving your time on LinkedIn is to be focused on whose posts you comment on. Because you'll see here that you can follow, you can unfollow, you can curate your feed, but they won't all be people that you are particularly interested in. So there's two ways that you can really efficiently curate your feed. So one is to do it in LinkedIn. And so what you would do is you would create bookmarks. So if I did a search, so for example, I'm just going to put in this as a keyword. And if I then look for people and first degree connections, this will bring me up all those wealth managers who I'm connected to. And then I can look at who's posted, and if that's one way of and I can save this, which is the key, to save it as a bookmark so that every time I come on in the morning, I can see. But a different way of doing it is to choose posts. So I would actually change my keyword for this. So if I changed this, and so here is where you can find posts that interest you. And you can choose any of these filters. So for example, I can choose those that have been posted in the last 24 hours on wealth management. I can even add names, but I could choose just my first degree connections. And then this is the key, is that what you would then do is you would then star it and bookmark it so that when you come on in the morning to do all your engagement, you might have a bookmark list for wealth management, you might have one for ESG, you might have one for coaching, you might have one for for anything, for mental health. And it's a really good way of finding posts quickly. You can find them if you're doing lead generation. You might want to choose ones of people that you follow but aren't connected to, in which case you would choose that option. So there's various options. So that is, and you can keep that completely within LinkedIn. If you want to take it a stage further, there is an app called, again, not affiliated, called Fistbump. And what that does, I'll show you because I've got it as an extension here, is that you can build lists. So for example, I might choose a list. So you can see I've got one of LinkedIn experts, which are my LinkedIn friends, so that I can comment on their posts, to build relationships also within people in my own industry. But say, for example, here, these are people that I frequently comment on, and it's not an engagement pod. They're just people that I find interesting, that post interesting content. And so every morning I'll go on and I will post, and if it interests me, I will comment on these people's posts. You can see, like I've already done that one this morning. I've posted on I've commented on Ed's post, and here's my list of people there, and you can change that. So you can have different lists of you can have a prospecting list, a nurture list, an industry list of people within your own industry. There are, the options are huge, basically. So I really suggest, it's all about planning. So you want to have a content plan, then you want to spend, in an ideal world, half an hour a day, engage, post, engage, and use the features that are inbuilt in LinkedIn in the first instance. So you've got your scheduling feature, your saved posts, and using the sort of the extra things like the away message. But that should really help you spend a focused half an hour a day instead of a sort of like tangled mess of commenting and then going off and doing something else and then coming back on and then finding the feed has moved on and you can't find the post. So I hope that is, I hope that helps you build a sort of efficient commenting and outreach.
Yeah, you've certainly given me some thought, and I'm sure also for the other viewers here. One thing I wanted to ask about is one of the tricks, or one of the difficulties I have with LinkedIn is that it seems that one day it's video, and the next day it's text, and the third day it's audio or something they haven't even found out yet. how do you keep track of what LinkedIn is actually right now preferring? Because if LinkedIn changes its preference, you have to change with it, I suppose, to keep on top. And if you don't know what it is, you're kind of just guessing.
Yeah, I mean, look, LinkedIn they produce their own literature, their own blog every so often. It's not actually particularly consistent, where they do sort of give an indication. At the moment, I can tell you that sort of short video is favored by LinkedIn. It's often people's not their preferred medium unless they're comfortable doing video. It's not my favorite. I prefer text and document posts, but I would say that it's not always, yes, you do need to follow the algorithm to a certain extent, but it's also about what resonates with your audience. I find that my document posts, I've checked on my analytics, which is another thing that you authored up, the tool I showed you earlier. That's really good. It has really good analytics in it. And I can see that my document posts do very well. Posts with photos on them of real people always do well, although they have been demoted slightly by the algorithm. So at the moment, as of today, it's all about video, but it changes pretty fast. I mean, if you go back 18 months, it was all about polls, and everyone was posting polls all the time because they do get a lot of impressions very quickly. So they're a very good way to have a little bit of a post boost or an ego boost, is to do a poll.
Talking just finally about that, because I've noticed that when I do a poll, as you say, there will be a lot of imprints, but there are very few people who actually bother to click on any of the options. I mean, you could have I had one that had, I think, 900 impressions and 6 clicks, and you wonder, okay, so everybody's seen it, so it must have had some interest on them.
I hear you. I do find the same. But what I would say is that I find that the easier the question is for someone to answer, so usually if it's something that's not particularly work related, people will click on it. Like I've seen, when someone sort of says, "Oh, what's your favorite chocolate bar? Is it like a Mars or a Twix?" Those ones will get hundreds of clicks. And where people actually have to think actually, what's the pain point in my business? Those ones actually seem to get less. It's just the way it is. People prefer sort of inane chats still, even though it's LinkedIn. But they are good because we assume that the data is correct. They do get a lot of views from people, so they're shown in people's feeds. So they're definitely worth doing, and they're very good for market research to find out, what your audience is struggling with.
Fantastic. Do you think there will ever be a time when LinkedIn would actually have kind of a calendar system built in so that we could have that, all of those steps you've told us, because it's very smart, and I'm definitely going to review the video and definitely replan my days going forward.
I don't know. I don't know. I would hope so. They've got, look, they are constantly tweaking, and they have made the scheduling feature now, a bit more user friendly, that you can edit within, and you don't have to wait an hour. You used to have to schedule with more than an hour beforehand in advance, whereas now you can schedule within that hour. You can schedule in 15-minute increments, and hopefully they will introduce an actual calendars, because that's the only thing, is that you can't see very clearly what you've scheduled. I have done, in fact, I did it this morning. I scheduled a post natively on LinkedIn, and I've forgotten that we also had one to go out on Buffer, so I had to delete the second one because otherwise you get no reach. You do have to keep on top of these things, but probably using one scheduling platform is the key to not falling foul of that.
So what you just said there, so one post, not 2 posts. You
don't want to post more than, if you post more than once a day, leave a good sort of 5 or 6 hours between the posts. I would suggest posting once, and then a few hours later, press the repost button, repost without thoughts, and it boosts it back into people's feeds again. So I would normally do that with a good post. I normally do it probably twice in a day. I'd boost it.
Okay. And so if you have like for instance, in my case, I now have 3 company pages. Would that be one on each, or would it just, or does LinkedIn consider me as one unit in the end?
No, your company pages are separate because people have different admins to company pages. So I'm just talking about your personal profile. I would only do one a day. Okay,
that's great. Well, thank you very much, Melanie. I think we don't have much questions more. So I think you've been very thorough. I will have this out later today in a post. And also, obviously, we will send it to all that were here, and also for everyone who was signed up but didn't show up, because that happens all the time also on these webinars, I'm afraid. So thank you very much, Melanie. It's been great being with you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have a nice day.